Hi, my name is Finley Billstone. This is my presentation on the Byford Dolphin incident and my proposal for a memorial to be built in honor of those who passed away. So, what exactly was the Byford Dolphin incident? This is not a well known tragedy, so I think that a little backstory and context will be helpful so that everyone can understand the scope of what happened. The Byford Dolphin was the name of an oil rig owned by Dolphin Drilling that operated for several different oil companies located in the North Sea. This specific tragedy occurred on November 5th, 1983 at 4 a.m. while the rig was stationed in the Frigg gas field in the Norwegian sector of the North Sea. On board the rig at the time were four employed saturation divers. Saturation divers, or SAT divers, are divers who go down to the bottom of the rig to perform maintenance and routine check ins or cleanings. One of the biggest complications with SAT diving is the pressure. The SAT divers for the Byford Dolphin were working around 270 feet below the ocean's surface. The pressure at such a depth is around 119 psi, while the pressure on the surface is about 14 psi. The body takes a long time to adjust to the pressure, and if a diver comes up too quickly, they fall victim to something known as the bends, in which nitrogen bubbles form and expand in the bloodstream. To avoid SAT divers having to do slow decompression every time they need to come up, they instead use a dive bell. The dive bell is a pressurized chamber that brings the divers up to the ship, which is then attached to a living quarter. This way, the divers can be in a controlled depressurized environment. At the time of the incident, there were four SAT divers inside of the living quarters: Edwin Arthur Coward and Roy P. Lucas, who are both British, and Bjorn Gjaver Bergeson and Truls Hellevik, who are both Norwegian. On the outside of the chamber were two British tenders, William Cramond and Martin Saunders. What's most tragic is despite how many scary and gruesome, and not to mention profitable, YouTube videos are made about these divers, photos of them are nowhere to be found. I was able to find these two photos, but after an hour of scouring, I wasn't able to come up with pictures of the remaining divers. There are plenty of photos online of what their bodies looked like after the incident, but not one picture of them before. This just goes to show how they are being forgotten and reduced down to nothing but their deaths. The divers have returned from a routine job and were sealing up the dive bell for the night. The way this works is as follows: close the dive bell door, which has been attached to a trunk which joins the living quarters to the bell. Slightly increase the pressure in the diving bell to secure the bell door tightly. Seal the chamber door, then begin to depressurize the trunk. The incident that occurred happened when Cramond, one of the tenders, mistakenly opened the clamp that kept the trunk sealed before Hellevik had closed the door to the chamber. This resulted in both chambers being instantly depressurized. Air was pushed out of the chamber with extreme force, which caused the dive bell to be shot away, striking both tenders on the outside. All four divers inside were killed during the instant depressurization, and Cramond was also killed while the other tender was severely injured. Personally, I think that this event is worthy of a memorial because it is an extremely unknown tragedy. There are so many instances where people have lost their lives due to work and it is rarely recognized. This incident is the result of so many cut corners. The rig was using an outdated diving system that did not have fail-safe hatches, pressure gauges, or an interlocking mechanism that would have prevented the door from being opened before the dive bell had been sealed. On top of this, the crew had been working for more than 12 hours and were extremely fatigued. There was an investigation opened, but the outcome claimed it was a result of human error, rather than bringing to light the safety precautions that were not taken. Many workers came forward and claimed that this investigation was a cover-up as there was no mention of engineering failure in the official report. The failure of these divers did not receive any form of financial the families of these divers did not receive any form of financial compensation until 26 years after the incident happened. I think that this case needs to be brought to light not only to recognize how dangerous saturation diving can be, but also because the Norwegian government shouldn't be allowed to sweep deaths like these under the rugs. Under but also because the Norwegian government shouldn't be allowed to sweep deaths like these under the rug. My design for the memorial is simple yet meaningful. The actual shape of the memorial was taken from the silhouette of the structure on top of the Byford Dolphin rig. The memorial is 8.5 feet tall, complete with a shallow pool in front of it that can represent both how these men dedicated their lives to water work, as well as providing a reflecting surface for those mourning. This way, they can view themselves in the pool, knowing that the legacy of these men and those who have suffered similar work related accidents must carry on through the viewer due to the corrupt government trying to cover up their deaths. There is a plaque for a small message, as well as plaques for each of those who lost their lives. There are flags of their respective countries etched into the stone, both because they represented their country in the middle of the sea and to hold both countries accountable. My proposal is for two identical memorials to be built, one in Bergen, Norway, and the other in St. Fergus, Scotland. These are the two towns closest to where the Byford Dolphin was stationed. To build a memorial in Bergen, you would need approval from the local government. Right now, Ryder D. Grans is the Commissioner for Business Development, Culture, and Sports. For the memorial in St. Fergus, you would need to go through the Historic Environment Scotland Association. Both memorials would be identical in nature, made out of granite and bronze. I personally think that this memorial would have a large impact on the public. It would bring a lot of important topics to light, such as work related deaths as well as government cover ups. It would also force the Norwegian government to take responsibility for the death of these five men. It could also inspire other companies to reevaluate their safety procedures. Saturation diving continues to be one of the riskiest jobs in the world due to the many technical skills and equipment required for it to be carried out safely. Making these divers' names known will make the public aware of the risks that these people take in order to pay the bills back home. I hope that their families have since found peace, and those who have suffered similar losses can find peace within this memorial as well. Thank you.